Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about Christmas books. So to celebrate Christmas in July I decided to read 4 Christmas romance books that I have had on my TBR. Some of these I've had on my TBR for a while and I thought I would use this as an opportunity to clear some books off my TBR and read some Christmas romances. So what I will say about these Christmas romances is, while some of them have like a Christmassy cover or Christmas in the title, the actual Christmas element in the story is maybe not as Christmassy as other books. So some of these books are quite Christmassy, others are not as Christmassy. So as I go through, I'll kind of mention which ones I think are super Christmassy, if you are looking for something that is going to give you that feeling, or if you're just kind of looking for a romance that has kind of some brief mentions of Christmas, some of these might be better suited for you. So I'm just going to share the 4 books that I've read and give you my thoughts on them. So the first one that I have is One Charmed Christmas by Sheila Roberts, and I'm just going to do a close-up of this cover because this cover to me just screams Christmas. This one is, out of all of them, this is the most Christmassy book that I read, and this is the one that I could definitely see. In fact, to be fair, some of the other ones I could see as a Hallmark Christmas movie, but this one I think would really work as a Christmas movie. So in this one we are following a bunch of different characters as they go on a trip to Europe and go and explore some of the kind of Christmas markets. So they go to a few different European cities, if I recall correctly. It's not just the one, but it's like a what do you call it, river cruise that they go on. And as I say, we are following a bunch of different characters. So we have 2 sisters that have travelled together. One of them, their marriage is in trouble and the husband decides that he doesn't want to go on the trip, so that's why the sister ends up going with her. Then we have a older man who is travelling with his daughter, who is a widow, and his daughter is and he's recently come out of a divorce from like his second marriage, and his daughter wants to travel with him to kind of make sure that that he doesn't go for any more unsuitable women, because his second wife was definitely with him for his money and she wants to obviously ensure that that doesn't happen again. Then we have 2 brothers that are travelling together. One is a teacher and teaches German to a bunch of students, and he decides to take them on this trip as kind of like a excuse to practice their German, and he obviously needs another adult to help supervise the trip, so his brother ends up going along. And there is 2 kind of older women who are travelling. One of them has recently discovered that she has cancer and is going to be starting her kind of cancer treatment journey in the new year, and she kind of wants to go on this trip as kind of a way to kind of help prepare her for the journey that she's going to have by obviously having a bit of fun beforehand. And we follow all these different characters and how some of them kind of form some relationships with one another on this river cruise, and there's a lot of themes discussed, like friendship. There's obviously romance in here as well, but it was a fun read. I think I ended up giving this one 3 stars because whilst it was a fun time to read it, it wasn't like a super memorable story. This is definitely, out of all of the books, the least spiciest one on this list. This one doesn't have any spice in it, so if you're looking for a Christmas romance that's just a sweet, fun Christmas read, this one is a good option for you because, as I say, there is no spice in it. And I would say this one, whilst there is kind of romantic subplots to it, I would say it's more of a women's fiction book than a romance, because the romance isn't the main premise of this one. But overall, had a good time reading this one. I've not read from this author before, and I would certainly be interested to check out her books in the future. Then I read Love Like Farms by B.K. Borison, and this one is the first book in the series. I've not read any other book of the books in this series. The only book I've read from her is First Time Caller, and this is kind of a small town romance series, and we were following Stella and Luca. And in this one, Stella owns a Christmas tree farm, and this Christmas tree farm is struggling, and she finds that one of her favourite influencers is hosting a competition to kind of promote small businesses, and she enters this competition, and in the kind of introduction to her business for the competition, she mentions that she runs the Christmas tree farm with her boyfriend. What she fails to mention in the application is that she doesn't actually have a boyfriend, and so then when she gets drawn as one of the potential winners for the competition, the influencer is going to visit the small town and visit the Christmas tree farm to kind of view the business, kind of meet the contestants and talk about them on her social media platforms, and then she will obviously decide which business is going to win. And when Stella finds out that this influencer, who's called Evelyn, is going to be visiting the small town, she realises that she needs to find a boyfriend pretty quick to kind of go along with the story that she's obviously told to enter the competition. And so here enters her best friend Luca, who she asks to be her fake boyfriend, and obviously they end up developing feelings more than friendship for each other, and it becomes their romance. This one obviously is a friends to lovers fake dating romance, and I liked this one, but I didn't necessarily love it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a solid read, but I definitely preferred the romance in First Time Caller. If I'm going to compare the two, this one I don't know, the romance in here is quite slow burn, and obviously they did start out as friends at first, so we do get that quite close friendship bond that does obviously develop into a romance. I'm definitely intrigued to check out the rest of the books in the series. The influencer who's introduced in this book, Evelyn, is going to be the main character in the second book, when she has a romance with one of the guys from the small town. I've forgotten what his name is, but we will obviously see him more in the second book. But as I say, I thought that this was a good start to the series. I liked the small town element, and I liked seeing the other characters that are obviously going to have their own books in the future. But overall, the romance wasn't necessarily my favourite, but I did still have a good time reading it. In terms of kind of Christmas vibes, this one obviously is set on a Christmas tree farm, so there is that element to it, but I wouldn't say that this is the most Christmassy of books. They do mention some kind of Christmas baking in here, but other than that, it's not the most Christmassy book that I've ever read. Then we have Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. This one's quite a short book from Tessa Bailey, and I did enjoy this one, and I gave this one 4 stars as well. In this one, we are following Aiden and what's her name? I've forgotten what her name is. Let me just have a quick look. It's another Stella. I should have remembered that one. So this one follows Stella and Aiden, and Stella has had a bit of a difficult past. She's just spent the last 4 years in prison. Her friend at the time kind of roped her into a armed robbery. Stella thought that the gun that her friend had was like a fake gun, or that it wasn't loaded, but it ended up getting shot in this robbery, and they have both ended up in jail, and Stella has just recently been released, and she's obviously trying to kind of restart her life. Aiden works at a department store that his family owns, and he meets Stella when she is looking at his Christmas window display, and she has a look on her face that kind of suggests that she's not loving the display, and so Aiden kind of approaches her and says, what would you do differently with this window display? What do you think of this window display, and what would you do differently, when she starts to criticize it. And she gives him some ideas for what she would do with the window display. And he says to her to apply for this job. They're looking for a new merchandiser to dress their windows, and she applies. His assistant kind of immediately kind of puts her in a pile of rejects because of her criminal background, but Aidan decides to take a chance on her, and it is their romance. I thought that this was a really fun read. I love the kind of window dressing aspect. I do find that quite interesting because I studied retail management at university, so things like that quite interest me, and I did like the romance in here. This is definitely not the most spiciest of Tessa Bailey's books. There is still spice in here, but compared to some of her other books, I would say it's quite low on the spice. And it was just a fun time. I had a great time reading it. It's a really short read, so I flew through it very quickly. The romance in here, I really liked the two characters together. In this one, we have Aidan, who is more of the sunshine character, and Stella, who's a bit more grumpy. Aidan loves Christmas, which I really enjoyed seeing. Quite often, I feel like in romance books, not all the time, obviously, we do get to see some heroes that like Christmas, but I feel like a lot of the time it is the heroine that loves Christmas, and the hero that's a bit more grumpy and not very Christmassy. But it was reversed in here, and I really enjoyed that one. I would definitely recommend checking out this one. If you are a fan of Tessa Bailey's writing anyway, then you will enjoy this. And if you're looking for just a short Christmas read, this one's a good one, because I flew through it very, very quickly. And then the last one I have to mention is The Antisocial Season by Adele Buck. This is one of the books that I got in my Afterglow subscription, and I thought this one was okay. I gave this one 3 stars. So in this one we are following Thea and Simon, and Thea has been a firefighter for the past 10 years, but she has recently decided that she no longer wants to be a firefighter. She's got some kind of trauma from past events and is quite apprehensive about going into kind of burning buildings. So she hands in her notice at the beginning of this book, and her boss says to her that they might have another job opportunity for her that will kind of keep her working for the emergency services without obviously having to do the going into the burning building sort of thing, and that is running the social media pages for the emergency services in her kind of county. And she is intrigued by this. She did study some sort of marketing area when she was at college, and so she does have some experience, and obviously she has the hands-on experience that she'll be able to kind of promote the safety messages on the social media, but she does need a little bit of support with how to actually run social media pages. So this is where Simon gets pulled in. Simon works in the local library, and he manages the library's social media pages, and he is kind of roped in to kind of show Thea the ropes when it comes to managing social media pages, what type of content works well, how to kind of schedule posts, how to put posts together, things like that. And it becomes a romance between the two of them. They did know each other from secondary school, and at the time Simon had a big crush on her, but Thea was kind of more popular and didn't really notice him so much. I thought this was a sweet romance, but it wasn't anything super memorable. It is classed on the back, where Afterglow give like a breakdown of the different tropes, is classed as a workplace romance, but I feel like for a workplace romance, which obviously this one was a workplace romance, there's a bit more, for me, when I'm looking for a workplace romance, there's kind of usually a kind of forbidden aspect. Either it's a boss and employee like this one, because Aidan was obviously Stella's boss, or it's that the two don't get on with each other, whereas this one, they weren't technically working, like they were working together, but they obviously worked for different teams, so to speak. So they weren't I wouldn't necessarily classify this necessarily as a workplace romance. This one is also said to be really spicy. Like that's one of the things that's on the back of the book. It says it's spicy. I would say this was not particularly spicy. I would say it was on a similar sort of vein to Love Like Farms in terms of there were like a couple of spicy scenes, but nothing really like shocking. I'd say Tessa Bailey's book was probably the most spiciest, and even then that was not as spicy as some of her other books. So this one I thought was okay, but I'm not sure I would necessarily class it as a favourite. Again, a bit like the Sheila Roberts, it was a fun time whilst I was reading it, but I don't know if I would necessarily remember it in like a few months' time. This author has written one other book which was called Fake Flame, which I think is book 1 in this series. I haven't read that one. I would be interested to go back and visit that one, but overall this was just an okay read for me. And in terms of the Christmas element, there isn't really a ton of Christmas in here, I wouldn't say. There's kind of some brief mentions. I think in terms of timeline, I think she gives up the job at kind of the end of summer. So we do kind of get to see time kind of progress. They have Thanksgiving in here, and then they talk about Christmas and like scheduling posts over the Christmas holiday and like talking about like fire safety for the Christmas period. But other than that, I wouldn't say it was super Christmassy. But overall it was an okay read. I did quite like Simon as a hero, but Thea, it definitely took me a while to warm to her character. So that was another reason that I only gave this one 3 stars. But they were the 4 books that I read for Christmas in July. Let me know if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts were, and if you have any recommendations for Christmas reads that I should pick up in the future, then please do let me know. I have a ton on my TBR, but I'm always looking out for new Christmas reads, and I will see you guys in my next video.